Rip the Band-Aid off, move on from the last, vestige of Bergeron.
That was a long time ago.
Chara.
Won the cup. That was a long time ago.
Rast.
Yep,
like all these guys. Krejci. Just move on. And, the coach is long gone. I mean, the original GM is gone. Sweeney's still here. Neely's still here. But, really move on from that. Yeah, I think it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. And extending Marchand for 2 or 3 more years does not do that. It's better than losing him for nothing. I'll grant you that. But it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. This is not – they didn't win enough as it is when they were all together. They're not going to win again, so move on. No one cares if he finishes – I don't care anyway. I shouldn't say no one. I don't care if he finishes his career in Boston. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, since losing in the Stanley Cup final back in 2019, they've just treaded water. Now, they've had – some crazy good regular seasons, but what does that really get you at the end of the day?
Nothing. You're the Al Horford Hawks.
So you lose like a heartbreaker in the Cup final, and then you come back the next 2 years, you're out in the second round both years. Then you have 2 consecutive years where you're out in the first round, and then last year you make it to the second round and you're out. And now this year you're going to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2016. You're also already on your 3rd coach over that span as well. I don't really know what you're holding on to. Really, let's say they even sign Marchand to an extension. You come rolling back next year. How's everybody feeling about the team? What's the outlook of the team? They'll be fine. Why would they be fine? I don't know. I think you don't want too long of a rebuild or a retool or whatever else. But if you can maximize some of the guys on the roster right now, where teams that are trying to win a cup are willing to overspend. They already overspent on Trent Frederick. Can they overspend on some of the other guys, namely Marchand, and try to get you in a position to really contend sooner rather than later?
So I also feel like, Keefe, they need to go way bigger, and this is kind of what you're talking about. They need to go way bigger than just Marchand, right? Like, if Marchand's back, then it's like...
more to be done.
Yeah. So rip the Band-Aid off with Marchand. Get him out of here. He's had a great career. He's a great Bruin. He wasn't very nice to Keefe recently.
No, I will acknowledge he's one of the greatest Bruins of all time.
He's a great Bruin. Like, I've made the argument before, way underappreciated compared to his former line mate, Patrice Bergeron, who's been sainted in Boston.
Yep.
And Marchand's done most of the same stuff in his career and is treated a notch or two down as an all-time great Bruin. So get him out of here. Rip the Band-Aid off, and then focus on the real stuff you need to focus on this offseason. Is Pastrnak the guy long-term? Or would you want to try to change the makeup at the top of the roster? Is McAvoy a guy long-term? Or do you want to try to change the makeup? What about Swayman? Trade Marchand now. Get that done. Get what you can. A plus-plus return, according to Frank Ciravelli. And then really look at what you need to do. Like, really alter the DNA of the team this offseason. And trading Marchand now allows you to do that.
Well, that's why I also wonder if you're just... Marchand's a big name, and obviously he's the captain of the team. But Marchand and Frederick also weren't guaranteed to be on the team next year. So if you're really looking to make bigger moves, isn't it also include... Now, maybe the return's not the same, but guys that right now you are kind of locked into that maybe you don't want to be.
Right.
Like, do you really need to see the rest of Brandon Carlo on this deal, or Charlie Coyle, or Pavel Zacha? Like, can you move on from those guys, try to change the overall chemistry of the team? I do think, not a perfect player, but I still think Pastrnak, McAvoy are 2 pretty strong building blocks. Like, their age, what they've already accomplished, what they still could accomplish. Like, I'm keeping those guys and building around them, but I don't know how many other guys I'm really all that thrilled to keep.
617-779-7937. You could jump in here. What do they do with Marchand by 3 p.m.? Is it the right move, wrong move? Would you be angry? I haven't heard from many people angry they'd trade Marchand. I know the results of the Greg Hill show poll last week, it was like maybe earlier this week, 60-40 in favor of moving Marchand, which I think is a no-brainer, right move. Mark is in Medford. Hello, Mark.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going pretty great.
So doesn't last night pretty much sum up the Bruins season in a used puck bag?
Last night was embarrassing.
Good example.
And it was Zadorov. It was just waste of money, waste of space, giant oaf, Nikita Zadorov screwing up the game at the end of it. Yes.
Not only that, Jonesy, but just when I thought Mason Lohrei was not going to turn into minus Lohrei, he does.
Yeah, sure does.
Oh, my God. Turnover at the blue line, goal off his skate. I mean, for the love of Christ. But I got to say, would I be upset if they traded Marchand? Maybe a little bit. But I tell you one thing where I wouldn't be upset, if a team did actually call up and ask about Jeremy Swayman.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, I'm on board with that.
Kenny,
I'd trade
Can I
Swayman
tell
too.
you, Emily Kaplan had the note the other day where she's like, the only guys who are off limits are McAvoy and Pastrnak.
And I was like, yeah,
Then
I like that.
Then Korpisalo started last night.
Sure did.
I mean, I don't know. Is there a chance they trade Swayman today?
Well, yeah. There's a chance. I would put the chance being low, but I think there's certainly a chance.
10%. Too high? 5%?
6.9%.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, but just because I don't think that was done, with like, hey, he's going to be dealt, but it was pretty specific. Like, you easily could have just thrown his name on there. You could have said these three guys, because that was how I was kind of operating maybe a month or two ago. Mm-hmm. All right, you keep these three guys. They're young. They're all under contract. You just recently signed all three. I mean, Swayman's the most recent. But I was looking up his deal. His no-trade stuff doesn't kick in for a couple of years.
Yeah, you got time to move
So if you
him.
were going to get out from under it. And also of note, this past offseason, every goalie worth half a damn signed for about that money. So what we thought here was like, wow, that's a lot of money for a goalie. Like, it's more than Tuukka was making and everything else. It's kind of the going rate for goaltenders. So I think teams are willing to take on that salary. And now, I think Swayman's going to be better next year than he was this year.
Me too.
I think this was a rough start to the year and never really got out of the way. He does have a few games, and you can't do this. They're like, oh, if you take away the 3 snowmen that he allowed, or like
we call that the razor. You take away a couple of games, it changes all the numbers.
These games where I went 0 for 5, take those games out. What's my batting average now? No, but like those games did really kind of sink him. He did have some good games. I also think the beginning of the year was a mess.
Okay,
but if you get a big trade offer for him, like I don't think you're like, no way, no, we're not. We're hanging up the phone.
Thank you. So that's exactly how I feel. Like no one on this roster is untradeable, including Pastrnak. So I would move Swayman in the right deal. But now let's try to think rationally. Are you going to get a good return for Jeremy Swayman at this trade deadline with his 3 goals against average of 3.00 and the absolute dog crap season he's had and the high AAV he has with the new contract? Are you going to get a worthwhile return? So my answer is, you think so?
Well,
my answer would be no, which is why I wouldn't be itching to trade him. But if you got a worthwhile return, hell yeah, I'd listen.
So Trent Frederick is much worse this season than he was a year ago.
Yep.
And you got a 2 and a 4 for him. Kind of surprising to me. So I wonder with Swayman, if you're getting in a negotiation with somebody, you do have to sell it a little bit more on, here's where we think he's going. You got him locked up, so you don't have to worry about haggling with this guy who went to Maine Business School and is trying to get the most money possible. You don't have to worry about that. We did the hard part with Swayman, and you can also point out how he looked in the playoffs last year. And a team might say, all right, like we'll go, because we've seen in all sports guys that at the trade deadline aren't having career years, but still go for like big time stuff based on like what they've done before.
It's true. I still believe in Swayman. I'm still not all that upset about the contract, but he's been horrible this year.
But you deal him.
Yeah, and if he keeps playing like this, then obviously. But I think he's better than he's shown, and I think he will be better than he's shown. Do you think Igor Shesterkin in New York is terrible? Like he's not terrible. He's making more money than Swayman, and he's having every bit the crap season that Swayman's having. So that doesn't excuse the bad season Swayman's having. But I would still largely want him on the team. That doesn't make him untradeable, but I'm not itching to move him today. I doubt they move him today. Marchand, another story. Bob is in Londonderry. Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, enjoy the show. You guys were kind of talking about what I was saying. I realize this year Swayman's been what he is, but I said from the beginning, this is what you see is what you're gonna get. And I guess my question is, what do we do when we do this again next year and get the same lackluster results? Not just from him, but from the whole team and the coaching staff. What are we going to do then?
It's a good question.
That's why I think if you can peel off some of the pieces this year, you do it. You're going to have a new coach in the offseason. Hopefully some new bodies in here.
You don't think Sacco's back?
I don't. I don't know. I mean, this is a bigger picture question, too. Is Sweeney back?
Not sure.
Yeah.
Like, here's my hope, by the way. My hope is that Sweeney is acting to attempt to save his job. I hope it's not ownership saying, all right, let's peel off Marchand. Let's do this. We're doing the rebuild, and we trust you to do the rebuild.
Yeah.
I hope that's not what's happening. I hope Sweeney's getting a little panicky, and he's like, I'm going to try to sell Buffalo, the Jacobs family, on a rebuild. That's how I'm hoping it acts.
Because normally you say, hey,
if
you
you're
make the
tearing
playoffs,
it down,
you stay.
Rebuilding, retooling, I don't want him back.
But he's not doing – to this point, he hasn't done anything that's given up picks and giving up prospects, not that they have a lot of prospects, for – rentals to try to be like a Hail Mary to make the playoffs. Now, maybe this last week is kind of The fact that they said during the Four Nations, right, there was 7 games to go before the deadline. Last night was the last one. That they were still kind of like figuring out what the path was. Like they had played so many games and they still didn't know. So part of me was like, if they had won 3 of these games over the last like 5 games, would they have actually bought?
Maybe.
Like now, like, you can't do it. But that to me would have been the safest way to save Don Sweeney's job. Would be like, hey, let's just get that second wild card, and then they can't fire me because I made the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see if he can sell, to your point, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs, but I have a plan to get us back in the playoffs next year, and it involves doing all these things.
Yeah, I just wonder, whose call is it even to trade Marchand? Is that Sweeney acting alone? Is Neely telling Sweeney what to do? Is the Jacobs family telling him? Like who's in charge of that? I'd like to know the answer. I'm not telling you I know the answer, but I'd like to know the answer on that.